Joining me now is Democratic Congresswoman from Massachusetts, Ayanna Pressley. Congresswoman, thank you very much for being with us. Tell us about the legislation that you're introducing and what it will do.
Well, first, let me just reflect back on a year ago when the Dobbs decision came out, gutting our rights to our bodily autonomy and reproductive rights and access to abortion. I was at my daughter's 8th grade graduation and immediately filled with dread that my daughter would be growing up in a country where she had fewer rights than I grew up with. And she asked me why the following marches and protests and rallies, why do I say when we fight, we win? And I said, because it's true. And so we keep fighting, leveraging every tool available to us in this moment, because abortion care is health care, and that is a fundamental human right. And I think it's important at this inflection point in our country that we are offering an affirmative vision, that we are plainly affirming the need for abortion justice. And I'm using the A word because those draconian forces at work that seek to deny us access to this fundamental human right, they have been very blunt. And so we must be just as precise and unapologetically aspirational. And so the Abortion Justice Act, this new North Star, would make necessary federal investments in abortion care. It would mandate medication abortion or referrals be available on all college campuses, expand physician training and investments in federal facilities, and it establishes a federal right to abortion care. It also requires that all health insurance coverage include abortion care and removes immigration enforcement from clinic settings. And so we have to, in this moment, use every tool available, from litigation to legislation to mobilization. I am devastated that the women of this country are victimized by those who have enlisted state legislatures, the lower courts, and the Supreme Court as co-conspirators in their extremist agenda to deny women access to essential life-saving health care. And when you talk about Black women and the maternal morbidity crisis and the prospect of forced birth, when Black women, regardless of socioeconomic status, are already 4 times more likely to die in childbirth or post-birthing complications, it is infuriating. And so I want to just say to those seeking abortion care, know that we are fighting for you. To those who have had an abortion, there is no shame in your having had an abortion. And I've introduced the Abortion Justice Act because I want to eliminate any systemic barriers and eliminate and reduce shame and stigma when it comes to abortion. The only shame here is that there are people working hard to deny you that which is your fundamental human right.
Let me ask you about removing the systemic barriers. I'm sorry to interrupt. We only have limited time, and I do want to ask you a couple questions. When you're talking about removing systemic barriers to care, can you explain what that means? How do you do that? How does the legislation fix that?
Well, it accomplishes that because, first of all, the House has got to pass the Women's Health Protection Act. Secondly, we need to pass the EACH Act, which would repeal the Hyde Amendment, which is discriminatory and racist and denies access. People have to understand that even before our rights to abortion were gutted by the Supreme Court, that there were already many systemic barriers. And so it has only been exacerbated by this. And so we need to pass the Women's Health Protection Act. President Biden needs to sign that into law. We need to pass the EACH Act, which would repeal the Hyde Amendment, and then pass the Abortion Justice Act, which is an affirmative vision and a North Star. Abortion care is health care, and that is a fundamental human right. And finally, to Republicans who do not want to get on board with this, who don't want to listen to their constituents, who want to be complicit in this extremist Supreme Court, which has overturned the will of the majority of the people, take note and put them on notice because this is infuriating. While they have continued to put this essential health care out of reach, it's not going to stop people from seeking abortion. It's going to stop them from doing it safely and legally. This is a march towards a federal ban on abortion. And so I'm grateful to the White House for their partnership and their leadership, including today's executive action to expand access to contraceptives.
On that subject, we just heard a little bit from a piece that my colleague Kristen Welker put together for us. And one of the questions she asked one of the women that is pro-life was, in the states where abortion access has been rolled back or restricted or outright banned, the maternal death rate has gone up. And She was asked if that was an okay outcome, and she says something like, "No, obviously I'm not happy with it, but it doesn't make her change the way she views the issue." Is there a way to? Is there any balance? Can you possibly have a balance when you are taking away access to abortion? And not every abortion is an abortion because somebody doesn't want to have a baby. Sometimes the abortion is because the baby later on is not going to survive, or it's it has a debilitating and not thrivable or not a survivable issue with its own self, or the mother is not well enough to keep carrying the baby. Is it possible to strike a balance between restricting the access to abortion, but also maintaining access for those who absolutely need it medically?
I think the point here, again, is abortion care is health care, and that is a fundamental right. And we have seen, our worst fears realized and then some in the last year since the Dobbs decision. We've seen folks denied necessary care when experiencing miscarriages, ectopic pregnancies, when their health is at risk, people being turned away from hospitals for any other type of medical care. It's really unconscionable. And as we've enumerated throughout this segment, the Black maternal morbidity crisis has only worsened. This is a matter of life and death. We're not being hyperbolic here. We've been worried that a day like this could come. We know we've seen time and time again in this country that gains are not guaranteed, which is why there have been canaries in the coal mine like myself and many other repro justice advocates for decades. Sadly, preparing for a moment like this. And while we're at it, let me just say, we need to pass the ERA because the fact that women have been relegated to this second-class status in this country, the fact that we are having to fight this hard for that which is essential and life-saving is unconscionable and infuriating. But the state of this movement, the state of this abortion justice movement is strong. We are resolved. We are emboldened. I will not be a liar to my daughter. When we fight, we win, and we will keep fighting using every tool available from the executive, from state legislatures to the halls of Congress. And the electorate is going our way. Because they recognize that this is essential, but also this abortion access is popular. We have mandates across the country, from Wisconsin to Michigan to Kansas. And so this movement is strong. And now we're offering this Abortion Justice Act as a North Star and an affirmative vision because we have to restore the rights that have been stripped, but we also have to expand them.
That Kansas vote was notable. I just want to add, before I thank you, that the Abortion Justice Act also protects patients and providers from criminalization for seeking or performing an abortion.
Yes.
Congresswoman Ayanna
Patients,
Pressley.
providers, and prescribers.
And prescribers.
Yes.
Thank you very much for joining us. We appreciate your time.
Thank you.